Sorry about that, guys. I don't know how meeting got ended. Okay, so where were we? So we were discussing about the format function, right? Cool. Okay, so what I was telling is, so these are the placeholders which you define when you are writing your print statement, and then you use the format function, and then these are the arguments that you give in the format function. So this particular argument is at the 0th index, and this is at first index. And how many total arguments are there? Two total arguments are there because there are two placeholders that you have defined in your print statement, correct? So what happens is that, so this Python will, occupy this first placeholder. This Java will occupy the place of this second placeholder. So when you run this program, your output should be Python and Java are programming language. So if I'll run this, it is printing Python and Java are programming language, right? And if you talk about total number of arguments in print statement in this particular case, how many total arguments are there? It is still one argument, right? See, this whole part basically constitute one argument of the print function. Now, second way is basically using the positional argument, right? So I was telling, right? So this is at 0th position. So indexing or position always starts with 0 in any programming language. And this is first position or first index. So what I have to define if I am, printing using positional argument. See, when you are giving without any positional argument, you are just giving empty curly braces, right? So in whichever order you are giving, the same order will appear, or the same order will basically replace in these positional, these placeholders. But if you want to jumble the order, you have to use the positional argument. What I mean by jumbling the order, so this is at 0th index and this is at first index. So by default, when I'm not giving anything, it will consider this something like this, right? 0 and 1. So if I'll run this, it will still print Python and Java are programming language. But I can jumble this sequence. What I mean by jumbling is that I can give 0 here and I can give 1 here. So when I do that, so this is at 0th position, this is at first position. So 0th wala will, occupy this particular placeholder. One first index will occupy this. So now the output will be Java and Python are programming language instead of this particular output. So when I run this program, it will print Java and Python are programming language. So this is the use of positional argument. Now instead of 1 and 0, I can give either 0, 0, 1, 1 also. It's up to me. So when I'm giving 0, 0, so Python is at 0th index, so it will occupy both of these placeholders, right? This one as well as this one. So sorry, output will be Python and Python are programming language. When I run this, output will be Python and Python are programming language. So this is the use of positional arguments. So you might be also thinking, okay, right now we have two indexes available in format function 0 and 1. What happen instead of 0 and 1? Let's say if I'll give 2. So there is no variable which is at index 2 here. So what happens in that case? Let's say if I'll give 2 here, what happens? It will throw error, index error. It says that replacement index 2 is out of range for positional argument tuple. So this is about the positional, using positional argument. Next one is using keyword argument. So when I'm using format function here in this case, if you look closely, This is basically a kind of a tuple, right? Which I'm passing Python and Java. Now, here I'm just passing the value. Here, so instead of just passing the value, I can use key value pair also. What I mean by key value pair? So instead of inside the format function, I can give A equal to Python and B equal to Java. I can use like this. And then uh, I have to provide A and B, the key of these key value pair here. And then when I'll run the program, it will print Python and Java programming language. Again, I can, swap these A and B, or I can provide all A and A. I can also provide the key which is not present here. So in that case, again, same error will come, key error will come, that this particular key C is not present. So this is how the format function works. So when we are providing the wrong key, it gives key error and the previously when we have seen that in positional arguments, when we are providing any argument with index which is not present, it gives the index error. So this is how the format function works. So we have seen three flavors of print function as of now. Yeah. Let's see what is next. So next one is print using ampersand, this percentage operator. So what happens? So basically, this is also a placeholder which defines, let's say if I'll write down %d, it will define that particular, place or the placeholder can be only replaced by integer kind of a value. If I'll give %f, small letter or capital letter, both are same, that denotes that the value inside that particular print function can only be replaced by the float value. And similarly, %s, %c, %o, there are, many placeholders that you can use using this % symbol. Now, single % symbol, it basically defines the interface between output format specifier. So these are the format specifier, these %d, %f, %s, these are format specifier. And then single % symbol basically acts as an interface between format specifier and their value. So what I'm talking, let's say I write down print the value is %d I am giving, and okay, 1 second. The value is %d, and then this I am using, and I am giving the value. So what is happening here? See, this is a placeholder, right? %d. Now it denotes that you can replace only integer value here. And this single % symbol, it acts as an interface. So it acts as an interface between this part and other part, the value part. So this is value part, right? And this is the the format specifier wherever you are mentioning. So format specifier. So it acts as a interface between these two. So what happens when I'll run it? It will basically print the value is 2, right? What happens if I'll give instead of integer value, let's say if I'm giving float value, what happens in that case? It will still consider this as an integer value and it will ignore the point and the values after that point. What happens if I'll give something else, let's say Boolean value? So the Boolean equivalent of true in integer is 1. So it should print the value is 1. Let's see what it is printing. It is printing value, the value is 1. But instead of, let's say if I am giving some string, What happens in that case? So in this case, when I run the program, it will throw error, type error, which says that %d format specifier basically is a real number, and a real number is basically required when you are using this and not str, right? Now, there are other format specifiers also, which we have seen, right? Let's take the example of %f. So instead of small %f, let me give in capital letter or upper camel, uppercase. So if I'm giving 2.3, it will print the value is 2.300000. So it will basically consider 6 digits after decimal, total 6 digits. If I'll just give the integer value here, it will print 2 and then dot and then 6 zeros, because it will consider final value. What it will consider, it will be the float value. See, if I'll give, let's say, false, so false, the boolean value false, its integer equivalent is 0 and its float equivalent will be 0 point then 60. So it will print the value is 0 point and then 6 zeros. Now let's say after decimal places it is printing 6 digits, right? But I want to basically limit my digits to some particular number, right? Let's say 2.3. Here I'm writing 2.334, something like this, and I want to limit this to let's say two digits after the decimal. So if I'll provide 0.2f, it will consider 2 digits. So what I'm doing here, I am writing down this 0.2, which means that consider 2 digits after decimal in the final output that you will produce. So it will basically consider 2.33. Now instead of 2.33, so this third digit is 34. Instead of 34, if I'll give 9, what happened? Will it print 2.33? It is printing 2.34. Why it is printing 2.34? Because it is considering two significant digits. So significant digits, when you consider significant digits, it basically rounds off the last digit if there is subsequent digits after that, right? So 2.33 are the two digits. After two digits, the third digit is 9. So 39 will basically be rounded off to 40. So that's why it is printing 2.34. So just remember, after point, whatever you are writing, it basically denotes the total significant digits to keep after decimal. Yeah, so this is a tricky example. So just remember that you have to consider significant digits, right? And let's take one more example. Let's take the example of %e. E basically represent the exponential format or the exponential form. So if I'll write down %e, and if I'll write down any number, so it will basically convert 2 into the exponential form. So when I'll run it, so this is how the exponential form is denoted. And instead of small e, I can give capital E also. The result will still be same. Yeah, so this was about the format specifier using % operator. Now let's see next part. Next part, what is next part? Next part is F string. So F string is a recent thing that got introduced in Python. And F string was introduced from Python 3.6. Before 3.6, mostly people were using format functions. Now, after the introduction of F string from Python 3.6, so people are using F strings a lot in their code. So it is very important to understand how this particular f string, basically work. So to specify a string as a f string, you have to just put a f word in front of a string literal, right? So if I'll put f word in before starting the literal, let's say f, this is f string. So it becomes the f string. Normal string, you just write down normally, right? This is a string. So whenever you are putting the word f before a string, it becomes a f string, right? Now with f string, what we can do? We can format a string or we don't format a string. So when we have created a string as a f string, I have two options. What are those two options? I can either format the string, I can format the string, or I can choose not to format at all. So there is no hard and fast rule. So it is my choice, because as soon as I create the string as a f string, I have two choice. I can either format the string or I can leave it as it is. If I don't want to format at all, so I cannot, I can leave it unformatted also. So this is the option that I get with the f strings. Now to format the values in f string, we have to add a placeholder, right? So placeholder is basically denoted by the curly braces, so that we have also seen in the format function when we were using format function in the print function. So to format a value in a f string, we can add a placeholder, right? If I don't add a placeholder, that means I have decided my string that I don't want to format it. So this particular example that I've shown you, so there is no placeholder defined here, right? So my choice will lie onto the second option, which says that I have decided not to format my f string. But if I want to format my f string, I have to add a placeholder. Now, this particular placeholder, this can contain either variable, operations, it can contain function also, and it can, contain the modifier also, right? Let's see these examples one by one now. Okay. So let's say print. To define f string, I have to put word f, and then I can write down my string. This is f string. So if I'll run this program, it will print this is f string, right? And I'm not doing any formatting here, right? I am just keeping my string as a f string without any formatting. But let's say I want to format it, right? So I have to add a placeholder. Let's say I'm adding a placeholder like this. And in this placeholder, what I have told you, this placeholder can contain what all things? Variable, operations, functions, and modifier, right? So let's take the example of variables first. So it can contain variables. So in how many ways you can provide the variable value? Using the variable name, right? Or direct values, right? Direct values. So let's see one by one. First, we will use the variable name, and then we'll try to enter a direct value. So if I want to use a variable name, let me define a variable, let's say 23. And in this placeholder, I'll provide the variable name A. So when I'll run this program, it will print this is 20, this is 23, right? So this is the first part of the scenario where I'm using variable. Now instead of using a variable name, I can uh, provide direct value also, like this 34, right? I can remove this from here. So again, this will work fine. It will print this is 34. So we have seen the first option where where the placeholder can be replaced with a variable name, right? Now, second thing is it can basically contain operations also, right? What do you mean by operations? So operations are, it can be addition, subtraction, multiplication, a division. It can be anything, right? So let's say if I'll put uh, 3 plus 4, something like this, right? I'm doing a addition operation. So inside a placeholder, I'm using operation. If I'll run this, it will basically calculate 3 plus 4 and then it will print the final result. Okay, let's see one more thing. If I'll give a equal to 2, b equal to 3, and here if I'll give a plus b, will that work? A plus b. If I'll run this program, it is again printing the value. So again, when you are using the operation, so you will use the operation on variable, right? Either you can, use the variable name while doing that operation, or you can directly use the variable, directly the values of the variable. I can mix match also. Instead of a plus b, I can write down a plus 34, something like this, and that should still work. It is giving this is 36, right? So this is the second part of using operations in the placeholder. Now third is using the function or method. So that can be inbuilt function also or custom function, which can be used inside these placeholder. We'll see one by one. First, we will see inbuilt function or inbuilt methods. For that, let me define A as Python. And is inside this placeholder, let me use it a dot upper. So a is a string and upper is a method of a string, which we will cover once we will cover the data structures. For now, you just understand that when you apply dot upper method on a string, it will just convert each and every character of this string into the uppercase. So when I'll run this, it will print this is Python. So this is what I was talking when I was explaining that inside the placeholder, we can use inbuilt functions or inbuilt method. So this is inbuilt. Inbuilt means provided by Python. Now, second example is where we have to use a user defined function. So let me define a function. Again, function I am defining for now. You don't have to worry how to define a function. So we will cover that once we'll be covering the function when we will be discussing on function. Let me define a function sum. Okay, this is the function that I have defined, which basically returns the sum of a and b. Whenever you call this function, it will return the sum of those two numbers. So inside this placeholder, what I can do is I can, instead of calling the inbuilt method, now I want to call this custom function. So how do I call a function? I'll write down the name of the function and then provide the arguments that I want to pass. 2, 3 I'm passing. Okay, one more thing here. So these, when you are calling a function, then the value that you are writing inside a bracket, these are known as arguments. So there is a confusion in these terms, right? And when you are defining the function and then you are writing down the variable inside these, in the definition where you are, defining your function, these are known as parameters. Okay, so people sometimes interchangeably use these words, but you just remember the difference between arguments and parameters. So this is the difference between arguments and parameter. So what happens in this case? Inside my placeholder, which is curly braces, I am calling a user defined function. So whatever I have defined inside that function, it will do the calculation as per that implementation and it will finally return the result as part of the final print statement that will be formed. So it will print this is okay. Uh, it is telling that it is not iterable. Yeah. Why it is throwing this particular error? Anyone knows?
वैल्यू प्रिंट करवाने के लिए %d लिखना पड़ेगा, इंटीजर।
No, but this is we are passing A and B. I mean, uh, these are all integer only that we are passing, right? Gaurav, any idea? So Python is a interpret. What I told you in the first lecture, it is a interpreted language, right? So it basically executes the steps line by line. First, it will execute line one, then line two, then line three, and so on. Not like a compilation, what you say, compilation language. So compilation happens internally, but on the surface level, on the outer level, it's a interpretable language. So initially, when I have written down this function after this print statement, right? So what was happening here? So it was going on to line number one, then it came to line number two. So when it was coming to line number two, this particular function was not interpreted by that time, right? So it was not into the interpretation memory, or you can just think that it was not interpreted by the time when I am trying to use this function, right? So that's why that particular error came. And if I just cut and paste this I mean, at the first place here. So at this time, when this particular line is getting interpreted, by this time it was able to understand what the sum function is, right? So when I ran this program now, it is printing the sum. This is 5, right? So this is how we use placeholder. So we have seen we have using inbuilt method, and we have also seen where we have used the custom function inside the placeholder. Now what is fourth part? Fourth part is using the modifiers, right? So, okay, what is modifier? Basically, modifiers. So there are a lot of modifiers, but I'll give you just basic examples of modifier. I don't want to confuse you too much right now. Let's see what modifier do basically. So let me write down f string. So I'll write down f, the price. The price is, if I want to use f string, I want to use placeholder. So I have defined my placeholder, and inside the placeholder, let's say, okay, before that, let me define a also, a equal to 3. And then here I'll write down a and colon. So colon is basically used to define the modifiers. So after column, if I'll write down 0.2f, what it will do? It will basically print this particular value, and it will convert first, it will convert it to float. So when it will convert it to float, what it will convert basically? It will convert 3 dot and 6 zeros, right? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. And then after modifier, I have mentioned 0.2 also. So it will just consider 2 digits after the decimal. So the output here in this case will be, the price is 3.00. If I run it, it will print the price is 3.00. So this particular colon that you are seeing here, with respect to or in the context of f string, this is known as modifier. So there are lot many uses of modifier. You can, go to, I'll show you 1 second. You can go to W3 schools, Python, f string, modifier, and you will be able to see these, whatever you are seeing here, right? So these are the modifiers that you can use. So there are a lot many modifiers. So once you are revising your concept of modifier, you can basically go on W3 school site and then you can try out few more examples, right? So this is what I have also, copy pasted in my slides. And we have just seen one example, right? So there are a lot many examples which you can try out. So probably you can try out once you are revising, when you are revising these concepts. Okay, so a quick what do you say, revision on the concepts that we have seen. So we are seeing print function, right? So what we have learned so far, print function. First part. So we have seen yesterday the simple usage of print function, right? Where we are just printing the variable by its name or by directly by its value, right? Then we have seen printing multiple values using print functions, and we have seen concatenation symbol as well as using comma. And we have also seen that using concatenation symbol, it basically constitute just one parameter, just one argument in print function, whereas when we use comma, it basically acts as a multiple arguments in the print function, and there is no space between the values that you use, that you print using the concatenation symbol. And then by default it includes a space when you use comma, because it consider each argument as a separately, and both I mean the all the arguments are basically uh, you know separated by default by a comma, right? What is the third usage which we have seen? We have seen print using format function, correct? Format function we have already seen, using curly braces, using positional arguments where we were giving zero and number, index number 0 and 1 inside the inside the placeholder. Then we have also seen the keyword arguments where we were providing keywords a equal to Python, b equal to Java, and then we were providing a and b in the placeholder that we have seen. Next thing, what we have seen, print using percent symbol or percent operator, right? So format specifier, right? Where we have defined the format specifier as %d and %f, and it can be capital, small letter, anything will work out with these format specifier. And next thing, what we have seen is the f string, print using f string, right? And in f string, we have seen that when we define f string, we either decide to format this string and we decide not to format the string. And when we decide to format a string, we use a placeholder, right? And inside that placeholder, we use variables, we can use variables, we can use operations, we can use functions, we can use modifiers, right? So this is what we have seen in print function so far. Any doubt, any confusion? I would like to hear back from you guys. Anything which you want to bring up? Pace is fine. Concept learning is fine.
Yes, yes, it's fine. No doubts.
Okay. We want to take a break now, or should I continue with one more? Uh, okay, let's continue. We'll take a break after 5 minutes. Or probably I'll be covering this SCP and END, which will take some time. So better to take a break now. I'll start a counter for 10 minutes. And we will connect after 10 minutes. Yeah, you guys can have a break. You can have a coffee and tea, and we will connect after 10 minutes. Thank you. Hey, welcome back. You guys had your break. Cool. Fine, let's get started again. Okay. Now the next part, the next usage in print function is using SCP and END keywords, right? So SCP basically stands for separator. END basically stands for ending. So total argument in print function, I've already told you, right? It can accept 0, 1 or more than one arguments, right? So when you are using SCP, it is basically used to separate two words, right? With some particular character which we provide under SCP keyword. So SCP can be applied with print when we have more than one argument. So it can be applied with zero argument also and one argument also, but no change will happen or nothing will happen. Whereas and it can be applied when print has 0, 1, more than one argument. It can be applied when print has any number of arguments. Let's see how these two keyword works. Okay. Uh, let's take the example of SCP first. I'm writing down print 2, 3, and then when I want to use separator or SCP or END keyword, I have to provide that as one of the argument in print function. So when I'm talking about as an argument in print function, I have to first separate it with a comma and then use SCP keyword. And let's say I want to separate with uh, with asterisk symbol. So what is happening in this example under the hood is that it will print 2 and it will print 3. Both of these value will be separated by the separator character that I am giving here under the print statement. So when I run this program, let's see what happens. It is printing 2 star 3, right? So under this separator, I can provide anything. I can provide, let's say, this if I'm providing. So whatever I'm providing under SCP keyword, it will basically use to separate the things that I'm writing down in print statement, right? Now, I told you that separator, when we are talking about separator or sep keyword, it is basically applied when we have more than one arguments. For 0 and 1 argument, we can use it. There will not be any error while we will be using it, but nothing will happen. Nothing will happen when we'll use it. Let's see that. So let's say, so in this particular example, we have used more than one arguments, right? Because there are two arguments, 2 and 3. Let's say if I am having only one argument, then what happens? No change will happen. It will just print 2 and nothing will happen. Zero argument, it don't have any argument. Again, nothing will happen. This separator SCP will not make any changes when we are using for 0 or one argument in the print function. Now let's see the end keyword. What happens when we use end keyword? So let's say I'm writing down 2, 3 and then end I'm writing down as asterisk here also I'm writing down. So when I'll run it, it will print 2, 3 and it will end with a asterisk because I have mentioned it as the separator. I mean as the end character that I want to print after all the values are printed. Right? And I can use these together also, SEP and AND. So when I use it as together, SEP, let's say, um, so in this case, when I'll run the program, so separator is basically separating these values 2 and 3, so it is coming in between, and then AND is basically coming after the last argument of the print statement is printed. So this is the basic of a separator and AND. And yeah, with AND I have told you that when we are using AND, it can be used with 0 arguments also, 1 arguments also, and more than 1 arguments in print function. It can be used in all these 3 situations, and it will it will have some changes on the output, final output. So we have already seen in 2 arguments it is working. Let's use only 1 argument. If I'm using just 1 argument, here also the change is applicable. And if I'm just with 0 argument, if I'm trying to do, it is also again with 0 argument also it is working. Yeah. Okay. Now when we um, talk about the default value of SCP and keyword. First, let's talk about SCP keyword. So 2 comma 3 when I'm printing, and it is printing 2 space 3. So what is the default value of SCP you can think in this case? So it is by default adding a space here, right? When you are printing it. So this is equivalent to print 2 comma 3 comma SCP equal to 1 space. So by default, when you are using print statement, print 2 comma 3, it is equivalent of this particular thing, because the default value of separator or SCP is a space. How about default value of end keyword? So default value for end keyword is basically a new line. So how you'll come to know about a new line? So you are, let's say, if you are printing 2, so you can see after printing this output, there is a space, right? And the system generated message process finished with exit code 0 is printing after a empty new line, right? If new line would not be present here, so this process finished with exit code will be printed just after 2. But it is not getting printed just after 2 because by default the end keyword introduce a new line. So this particular thing is equivalent to this particular thing, 2 and new line basically is denoted by backward slash and n. So if I'll run this or if I'll run this, both are same. See, it is printing same output. So default value of separator, what is the default value of separator? It is space, and default value of AND is new line, right? Now one more thing. What is the output? What will be the output if I'm using, let's say, okay, before that, let me write it down. Hi, hello. Okay. Can anybody tell me what will be the output? If you guys are not sleeping, if my lectures are not that boring, I believe you will be able to make out, right? Anyone? Okay. Let's see what is happening in this case. यहाँ पे in this case, how many arguments are there? One argument, right? This is considered as one argument. And for separator keyword, separator keyword, what I have told you that separate keyword will only work when you have more than one arguments, right? So with just one argument or with just zero argument, it will just print the output without any effect, additional effect of separator. So when I'll run it, it will print hi, hello. And separator is not, separator didn't come into the picture, right? But instead of hi plus hello, if I'll do hi comma hello, now there are two arguments here, right? So separator will come into the picture and hi hash hello will be what will be printed in the output. Hi hash hello. Yeah. So this is about the and separator keywords. Next thing is printing new line and printing on the same line. Okay, what do I basically mean by this? Let's see that. Okay, when I'm printing print 2 and then I'm printing print 3. Okay, what is happening? All these this particular output will be coming in a separate line. First 2 is printing and then 3 is getting printed, right? If you might have learned, if you might have, if you might be knowing Java, there we would be using system.out.println to print in a new line and system.out.print to just, continue printing in the same line. So how do we achieve that particular thing in Python? We will see that. So Python may, if you are printing these, in separate line, it will basically, by default, it will be printed into a new line, right? Let's say if I want to print 2 and 3, both of these, which are part of separate print statement into same line, how do I do that? How do I do that? So in line number 3, where I'm printing print 2, I'll use end, and in the end, I'll just open the curly braces. I'll just open the double quotes and close the double quotes. So when I'll run this program, it will print in the same line, 2, 3. And if I want to make it a little bit more, if I want to make my output a little bit more elegant, I'll just, instead of a empty double quotes, I'll just introduce one space here. So when I'll run this program, it will print in the same line. 2 and 3 are getting printed into the same line instead of getting printed into a separate line, right? So this is how you achieve printing the different values that are part of different print function into same line. Now, how do you introduce a new line into your using your print statement? Just an empty line. What do I mean is print 2 and 3 you are doing, right? The output is coming 2 and 3. Here, I want to introduce a new line. So my output should be 2, then an empty new line, and then 3. How do I achieve that? So new line is printed using
Backward and
backward n. Okay. But when I'll run this program, how many new lines are introduced here? My intention was to introduce one new line, but here 2 new lines are introduced, right? Correct?
yes,
Why it is happening?
because you are using two different print, like
Okay.
the print
Now,
automatically shifts
yeah.
to the
Now, in
next
order
line.
to understand this problem, let's go back to the default values of end keyword, right? So whatever I'm writing, whatever I have written above, let me rewrite down using end keyword. So whatever I have written down on line number 3, this is same as this, correct? Right? Now let us rewrite line number 4. So on line number 4, I have written down this. So line number 4, whatever I have written, it is same as this, correct? Agree? Disagree? Anyone wants to disagree? No, right? And similarly, line number 5 pe what I have written, if I'll write it down, rewrite it down, it will be like this, right? So let me comment this out and run the program. The output should be same, right? So see, output is same with 2 new lines, right? So that is the reason why there are 2 lines, because by default, when you are using print statement, it adds by default a new line. And here when you are writing print, /n, after introducing a new line at line number 8, it is again introducing one more new line, because by default, the new line is getting introduced in each print statement. And after 3 also a new line is introduced. That's why you can see a blank, new line after 3 here, this blank line. So this looks very, confusing thing. If you'll think, line number 3, 4, 5, you may think that, okay, it will print 2 and then a new line will, an empty line will come. And then you can, see the output as 3. So 2, empty line and 3 should come. But no, this is not what happens. It basically prints 2. And then, for this particular one new line, it will basically introduce 2 new line, because by default, AND keyword comes into the picture. Even if you write it down, if you don't write it down, by default, AND will come into the picture with the value of /n. So that is why 2 new lines get introduced. Okay. But how do you achieve just a single line, right? Single new line. If you want to have just a single new line between 2 and 3, how do you achieve? So to achieve that, you just use the print statement without any argument, right? I have told you at the starting, print statement can have 0 argument, 1 argument, more than 1 argument, right? So till now we have seen these examples so far, right? Where print statement have 1 argument, more than 1 argument. Now we are seeing the situation where we are using print statement with 0 argument. So this is an empty print statement, and when I'll run this program, it will just introduce 1 new line instead of 2. So now you can see there is only 1 new line got introduced. So this is how you this is how you basically print 1 new line without accidentally introducing 2 new lines. Yeah, so this was about printing new line and then printing in the same line. Next part is uh, printing in single quote, double quotes, and triple quotes. Yeah, let's see those examples. Okay, before that, let me show you the slide also. Okay, yeah, so we will be seeing this particular example now, printing in single, double, triple quotes. Let's see what does it mean. So print statement, this is, or let's say only hello I am printing. So double quotes you are using. You can also use just single quote. It will work fine. So double quotes and single quotes, you can use both of these to print your statement. It will work fine in both of these cases. But okay, let me write it down. But let's say when you are using single quotes, first thing is that you can use double quotes inside it without any problem. But you cannot use single quote inside it. If you want to use single quote, you have to use escape sequence. So what is escape sequence? Escape sequence is basically a backward slash, which is basically used to escape a character, right? Let's say you are using single quote here, right? So inside single quote, what I have told you, you can use double quote, right? Hello, if I'm writing double quote inside this, hello world, right? I can use it, hello world. So I can use double quote inside a single quote, nothing will happen. It is printing hello world. But I cannot use single quote inside a single quote. It is giving error, right? So in order to use a single quote inside a single quote, I want to escape the character. I mean, this single quote I have to escape. So in order to escape this single quote, I'll use backward slash before the single quote. I want to escape it, so I will use it before the single quote. Similarly, at this position also, just before the single quote, I'll use backward slash. Now, when I'll run this program, it will print hello world. So this is how you use uh, escape sequence or escape character. Now the opposite is also true in double quotes. What does it mean? Inside double quotes, you can use single quote, right? You are able to use single quote, nothing will happen, it will run fine. It is printing hello world. But you cannot use double quote inside a double quote. Error will come. Now, in order to use double quote inside a double quote, what you have to do, you have to again use a backward slash, which is escape sequence, just before the start of double quote. And here also I'll use it. Once you'll run it, you'll be able to use it fine, right? So this is how single and double quote basically works. Now, let's see printing using triple quotes. So triple quotes are basically either three single quotes. So triple quote means something like 1, 2, 3 single quote and then hello closing single quote. Or it can have, this is 3 single quote, not 2, sorry. Or you can have 3 double quotes. Something like this 1, 2, 3 double quotes, then your word or your string, and then 1, 2, 3 double quotes. So you can use 3 single quotes or 3 double quotes. So if I'll write down print 1, 2, 3 and then hello. So this is triple quotes and this is 3 single quotes. It will work fine. Now, what is the usage of using triple quotes? I can use single quote also, right? What is the difference? The only difference of using 3 single quote is that you can use or you can create your string in a multi-line fashion. What does it mean? I can create multiple line here. This is line 1. This is line 2. This is line 3. So when I'll run this program, it will print multi-line in a multi-line. So triple quotes are basically used to print in a multiple lines. So instead of single quotes, I can use 3 triple quotes also. 1, 2, 3, and here also 1, 2, 3. So this is also possible. If I'll run it, it will print the same thing. Now inside triple quotes, we can use single quote as well as double quote. There will not be any issue. I can use hello world like this, and I can use double quote also inside this. It will run just fine. You can see this. Similarly, same thing happens with the single quote also. You can use double and single quote without any tension. Now there is a there is a trick in this particular thing. Uh, the trick is that, let's say, in the last line where I'm closing my triple quotes, I'm writing down Python. Hmm? And Python I'm writing down in double quotes like this. So just at the point where I'm closing my triple quotes, let's say if I'm using double quotes here, then I cannot use double quote just before these, three double quotes. Otherwise, it will basically get confused. Same thing happens when I'll use three single quotes. So three single quotes may here at this place. Okay, I'll show you that one. Let's see first what error it is showing. So it is showing missing closing quotes because it got confused, right? So you just have to remember that before the closing double quotes, three double quotes, you cannot have another double quote just hanged on to it. If you want to use it, you can uh, basically put one space. If you put just a space, it will go off. The error will go off. So this is not allowed. Similarly, if you are using three single quotes, one, two, three. Then when you are using three single quotes, then one single quote just before the closing single quote is not allowed. Triple quotes की जगह it becomes a quadra quotes. So quadra quotes is not allowed in Python. So that is why it is throwing the error. If you still want to use it, you just have to introduce a space between these two, and then it will run just fine. Yeah. Same thing happens at the starting also. It's just that you have to see, I mean, if you're using triple quotes, you just don't accidentally make it as a quadra quote. So as soon as you are accidentally making your triple quotes to quadra quote, it will throw error. Okay, so this is about single quote, printing in single quote, double quote, triple quotes. What is next? Print using asterisk symbol. So this is the last part of print statement. So this is the ninth usage of print that we are seeing today. What does it say? Let's see that. So, okay, and I'll have one quick, knowledge check on this. So probably I'll pick someone from the audience. So just, pay close attention here. I'm using print and I'm using high word here. And after high, I'm placing this asterisk symbol and then printing 3. So what happens in this case? So this particular thing will get repeated 3 times. High, 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 high. Now, in order to make this little bit, in order to make the output more elegant, I'll, introduce a space at the end. So you'll have a space and you'll print 3 times high. If we'll do HA, means it will become a laughing message. Ha ha ha, right? So basically, asterisk is used to repeat same word number of times which you have mentioned after asterisk. If I'll put Python 3 times instead of 3, let's say 4 times I'm putting, it will print Python 4 times. Let's see if minus is allowed here. Minus is allowed, but it will not print anything. Yeah. Okay. So it is repeating. Let's say if I'm printing, so it is repeating number of times where you are providing after the asterisk. If I am printing, let's say 2 and then doing 3, what will be the output? Can anyone tell? Sarthak?
6.
Yes, good. You are paying close attention. Yeah, so it will not be 2 repeated 3 times, 2, 2, 2. It will not be the output. It will print 6. because this is a mathematical operation. For integer, it becomes a mathematical operation. Now, if you want to repeat this 2 3 times using asterisk, how you'll achieve it? You just have to define this 2 as a string type. So now it will repeat 3 times, 2 2 2. So it's a very, kind of a silly mistake. I mean, uh, I was doing the multiple choice questions on this Python, and then 5 to 6 question came up on asterisk, and then this seventh question came, what is 2 into 3? And I have selected 2 2 2 3 times. So this is how your brain tricks you. So just pay close attention to these concepts. So integer, and then when you are using asterisks on integer, it basically becomes a simple multiplication operation, right? Okay, so this is about the print statement. And okay, before closing this, let me take more example on these asterisk. uh, if let's say, instead of string and integer, we have seen, if I'm giving this true, what will happen? Again, true is the Boolean format. True is a Boolean, data types, and the Boolean data type, equivalent of Boolean data type in integer is 1. So 1 into 3, so the output will be 3 only. So this basically asterisk is used for the repetition on a string. For numeric data type, it basically works on multiplication. Okay, instead of, okay, one more thing. Let's say if I give complex data type, what will happen in this case? So it will, for complex, it will, repeat the real part as well as imaginary part 3 times. Here multiplication is not happening. It is just repeating the real and imaginary part of complex number 3 times. So basically, it works on sequence data type. Okay, before moving forward, let's say,
It is returning a tuple in the response in the
right,
console.
what will be the output in this case?
Yeah, it is returning a tuple.
It is
It's not.
returning a tuple with
Uh,
each element of that tuple repeated 3 times.
3 times.
So repetition happens on string. It will just repeat it as it is. For tuple, for dictionary, sorry, for complex number, it will just repeat each and every uh,
Part.
value
Right?
that number of time. What happens in case of set?
It's showing some error, I guess.
It is showing warning. But what happens in that
Warning,
case?
like the other, like considering the other cases, same thing will happen. Like it will repeat the site thrice.
But set is the collection of,
Oh, okay, nice. Set is a collection of unique elements.
yeah, so it will not repeat. It will throw error in the case of set type error.
Unsupported operand.
So these are some of the tricky examples around asterisk, usage of asterisk in print statement. So only in set it will throw the error because set contains unique elements and it is trying to do repetition for the elements of set. That's why it will throw error. Whereas in other sequence type like list and uh, you know string complex number, it is just repeating each of the element. What happens if I'll give list? The output, okay, it will repeat for sure, but will the output be the tuple or the list? It will be list only.
Yeah.
Cool. So
Mhm.
this was about the print statement. So we have seen these things in today's lecture. Simple print we have seen
Print,
yesterday,
yes.
and these are the
Mhm.
things that we have seen today.
Today.
Cool. So next thing is taking user input. How do you take, how do a user takes input in Python? So basically the input is taken using an input function. So input function, what does it do? It basically prompts the user to input the data from the console. It accepts an additional argument that can be used in order to write a message before the user input. And the return type of the input function is always a string. The program which do not have any input function is known as a def program. So whatever program that we have, we have created in the demo or whatever code explanation that I've shown you, all were def programs because there was no input functions there. Now, with respect to the arguments of input function, so input function, how many arguments it can have? It can have 0 argument or it can have 1 argument. More than 1 argument is not possible in this case. Print में कितने होते थे? Print can have 0, 1 and more than 1 in print, right? We have seen that. But in input, we can have only 0 and 1 argument. More than 1 is not possible. Okay, let's go back to PyCharm and see how input works. Let's say I have defined input here, and return type of input is always a string. So let me save it in some variable. Let's say I'm saving it, I'm assigning it to S, and then I'm printing S. When I'll run this program, here blinker is blinking, right? And let me write down something. If I'll write down 12, so this particular thing, this is the user input. So program is still running, right? It got paused because the program user input is being called. So the program is paused for now, and I have to provide the user input. As soon as I provide the user input and click enter, the program execution will continue. So it basically right now the program get paused on this line number 3. As soon as I input the value which I am entering 12, and whenever after entering the value, if I'll hit enter button, the control will go on line number 4 and it will print the value. So I am pressing enter button now. So after pressing the enter button, it has printed the value as 12. Now inside input function, how many parameters are there in this case? 0 parameter, right? Now it can have 1 parameter. So this 1 parameter, whatever you will provide in this, will be the message to the user, so that user should be knowing what he has to enter, or does he need to do anything? Because without it, if I'll run the program, I'll not be able to guess that I have to enter a value, right? So you have to write some message for user. Please enter a number, something like this. So when I'll run this program now, see, it is printing a user-friendly message where it is telling me to enter a number, and when I'll enter a number and click enter, it will print the output. Now, instead of providing the string, can I provide any other data type in the argument of input function? If I'll provide 2 here, what happens in that case? So what happens in this case is that it did not ask user to enter the value. It by itself.
Enter 2.
No, that's not the case. You are seeing the output. You may see that 2 is being entered by the user, but actually 2 is also considered as message to the user. So after that, you have to enter something. So when you will enter something 12, it will print 12. So
Okay.
you can provide anything as the argument, that anything will be shown to the user when the program is run. So make it make this particular thing meaningful so that user don't get confused. So I mean, usually we provide a string value or a message for the user. And can I have more than one parameter or more than one arguments? Hi, hello. We cannot have more than one parameter. It can only, sorry, more than one arguments we cannot have. We can only have zero arguments or one argument, right? Now, return type is always string, I said, right? So when I'm entering the number, it is printing S. And if you want to check the return, the data type of the this entered value, how you'll do that? You will use the type function, right? So when I'll run it, if I'll enter some number 12, it is looking like that I'm entering an integer. When I hit enter, see in the output it is printing the class as str. So the return type of the input, user input, is always a string, right? Let's say you want to, instead of a string as the return type, you want it as an integer only. You don't want the a string, because s plus 10, if I'm doing here, what will happen? If I'm entering number here, error will come, because to concatenate, you have to use a string here, right? This part is a string, but this part is not a string, so error is coming. Now, in order to have my input as an integer, I will use just int keyword here at the input. And when I run this program, the data type of s will become int now, and this operation will happen at line number 4, right? 22. And the class will be the int class. Fine. So this is how you change the data type of the inputted value by the user. By default, it is a string. But if you want to change it to any other data type, you have to do typecasting or type conversion, which I will cover, later on. And this is how you do that. Cool. Any doubt, any confusion, anything which you want to bring up or talk about? Cool. So this is about user input. Now, next thing is conditional statements. So we'll see what are conditional statements. So conditional statement are basically decision-making statements in program, right? They work on certain conditions. So when I'm talking about conditions, conditions are Boolean values. The result of those condition will either be true or it will be either false. So decision is based on the output that these conditions are producing. If it is true, then those set of statements will be executed. If it is false, those set of statements will not be executed. So that's what I have mentioned here. Conditions can be something that returns true or false. Statement, okay, this is the difference between condition block and statements. Condition is something that returns true or false. A statement is a line of code that does something. So anything that you write down in your coding is a statement. And block is a group of more than one statement, one or more than one statement. So when I'm talking about conditional statement in Python, so we have three kind of conditional statements in Python: if else, and if elif. So if statement is basically a simple, condition check. If a condition is true, the program executes the certain block of code. If not, then it skips it. Let's quickly see how it works. So normal syntax of if statement is like this. let's say if I'm giving a equal to 3 and here I'm writing down if a is 3 then print a is 3. So here what is happening? So I'm providing the value of a as 3. This is an assignment operator, right? And double equal to is a comparative comparison operator. So comparison operator means comparison operator are used for making the statements as a condition. So condition का result can either be true or it can be false. If it is true, this line will be executed. If it is false, this line will not be executed. So in this case, this is true, so it will execute this line. The output will be print a is 3 will be executed and the output will be a is 3. If let's say I'll make a is equal to 4, in this case, the program will not get executed, and if I'll run it, nothing will get printed, right? So this is a simple if statement. Also, the conditions that you are writing in front of if statement, you can write down in brackets also. So if I'll run this program again, it will work fine. So you can use bracket or you can use without bracket also. It will work just fine. And if you have a single line in a if statement, you can write down like this also. So A is 3 is printed. Now let's talk about block, condition, and statement. So this particular whole if part, whatever I'm writing as part of this if statement, this is known as if statement. Collectively, it is known as if statement. This particular part where I'm checking the value as a double equal to 3, this part is known as condition, right? And this particular part, this whole part, so right now it has only one line, right? Print a is 3. It can have, let's say, more than one line also. So all those lines will constitute if block. It will be called as if block. And each of these line inside if block will be the separate statements. Each line will be the statement of the if block. So these are some of the terms which are very confusing and which you guys can, I mean, many people use it interchangeably within the IT world, but you just remember the basic definition of these terms. So this is how a simple if a statement works. Now let's say, okay, there is one more concept which says that you read this line. Any string, list, tuple, set, dictionary is true except the empty ones. Similarly, any number is true except 0 and none is false. What does it mean? It means that instead of a equal to double equal to 3, if I'm giving some random number, what will be the output? So any number is true, any numeric number is true. So if it is true, it will execute this line, right? So when I'll run it, the output will be a is 3. Any number is true except 0. So if I'm giving 0 here, it will not run because now it is considered as false. Similarly, any string is true. I'm giving any string true. And if I'll run it, it is printing a is 3 except the empty string. Do you consider this as an empty string? No, because space is also considered as one of the characters in the programming word, right? To make this string as a empty string, you just remove this additional space, and when you run it, it will be considered as false, and this line will not get executed. So it says that so we have seen this any number is true except 0. Any string, list, tuple, set, dictionary is true except empty ones. So let's say if I'll take the example of 1, 2, 3, this is non-empty list, so it will be considered as true. It will print A is 3. If I'll give empty string, it will not print it. And none is always considered as false. So when I'm using none, this will not get printed because it will be considered as empty.
False.
It is not. It is considered as false and it will not get printed. So this is about the basics of conditional statement. Next is if-else. So if-else, basically how does it work is it will work like this. Print, here if I'm writing down else block, and above let me write it down as if block. So if block line 1, print if block line 2, similarly else block line 1 and else block line 2. Now before we start, okay, let's run this. What will happen in this case? It will print the if block, right? Because any number is true except 0. If I'll make it as 0, it will print else block. Because this is false, it will not go here. It will go in the else part. Now, if I'll consider this all the statements of this if else, which constitute this if else logic, is known as if else statement. Okay. And this particular part, this is known as condition, right? Condition. This is known as if block. This is known as else block. And these are known as, this is known as statement 1 of if block, right? Statement 1 of if block. And this is known as statement 2 of else block. Similarly, ye wala will be statement 1 of else block, and the next line will be statement 2 of else block. Okay. And then we have something known as if elif also. So if elif is basically used to include multiple conditional expressions. So right now we have only one condition here, right? Only one condition. If you want to have more than one condition, you use if elif block. So how does it work basically? So let's say if I'm giving a equal to 3, and if I'm giving if a equal to 5, print a equal to 5, elif a equal to 6, print a equal to 6, elif a equal to 7, print a equal to 7, else print nothing. Okay. So here, if you can see closely, so we have how many conditions? One condition, two condition, three conditions. So we have three conditions here, right? So normal if or if else statement have only one condition, whereas if elif can have multiple conditions. So in this case, a value is 3. It will not get execute. This will not get execute. This will not get execute. So output will be nothing. It will print nothing. And let's say if I'll make it as 7. So in this case, it will check condition 1. It is true or false. It is false. So this will not execute. This is again false. So this will not execute. This will become true. So it will execute this. And it has executed, uh, you know, uh, the statement from if block. So else will not execute in this case. So output will be a equal to 7 in this case when I'll run the program. A equal to 7. Okay, I think that's pretty much it for today's session. Any doubts so far? How's the feedback from today's session? Did you guys learn something new, or is it something that you already know? Just a brush up for you guys. I just want to hear back from you guys. How does it work for you in today's session? Okay.
Today's session was insightful. Like we explored the print statement with almost every case, and it was quite good learning.
Cool. Fine, then next session we will see something known as conditional statement group, which is the concept that I have invented. Why I have invented that and what is the use of it, we'll see in the next sessions, which will happen on next Saturday. So yeah, I think pace is okay. I would say not slow, not fast, but we have a lot to cover in Python. So we'll try to gear up and try to increase our speed from next sessions onward so that we can cover everything on time. Yeah. Cool. I think that's pretty much it then. Enjoy your weekend, guys. Have a nice day ahead, and we'll see you in next session. Thank you.